The asteroid belt known as Phaeton was not particularly impressive. It was just a small, dusty rock orbiting the star Proxima Centauri. The mining station, built from salvaged materials and antique alloys, groaned with every minor movement. Few people visited the station unless they needed to, and those who stayed either needed help or were running away from something. The stocky reptilian chief, munching on a protein bar with iron shavings, was in charge of the outpost when the long-range sensors beeped. The signal, so rare in this area, caught his attention. He almost choked on his food when he saw an unidentified capsule drifting in Sector 345. On the console, the boss saw a low-resolution green text that read, "Probably just trash," and he tapped on the intercom. "Keep an eye on it. We don't want another reactor to crash into us." A graceful, insect-like engineer with 4 arms and sharp intelligence snapped her jaws and stared at the interface. Her whiskers twitched. "Not trash," she buzzed. "The escape pod." The engineer opened the capsule and found a survivor inside. Medical Officer Ira stepped forward, her ears flaring alarmingly. "If one of us was in this capsule, wouldn't we want someone to pull us out?" The silence in the room was deafening. The conclave would not approve of the discovery of xenon in their midst. But Ira, the medical officer with her wide ears and strong moral compass, spoke up. "If one of us was in this capsule, wouldn't we want someone to pull us out?" No one answered. Within an hour, the escape capsule was delivered to Dock 3. The outer shell was charred and pocked with plasma damage. Talia expertly opened the hatch, revealing a figure slumped in the cockpit, bloodied and unconscious, but still alive. "It's a xenon man," Ira confirmed, her voice full of concern. "His vitals are critical, and his armor is half melted. There are 3 punctures in his stomach. His left leg is crushed, but he was still breathing." Drog looked on in disbelief. "Oh, people are really absurd," Malil said solemnly. "Get him to Medical Unit A1 immediately." That night, Caden Reiner dreamed of flames, broken steel, and betrayal. His squad was sent to sabotage the Conclave's fuel depot orbiting the Dark Moon. A simple covert operation until their evacuation shuttle was shot down by a traitor who was providing information to the Conclave. The last thing he remembered was ejecting from the capsule when his teammates were burning up. When he woke up, he was strapped to a gurney under a bluish surgical light, pain permeating every nerve. "You're safe," said a soft voice. "You're on Phaeton 17. Don't try to move." Caden's hand jerked toward the non-existent sidearm, his vision clearing a bit. He saw her big eyes, her wings, tightly folded, strange but gentle, not human alien. "Yes," Ira replied with a calm nod. "And please." 2 days later, Caden was somewhere else. A signal flashed on the console. A huge warship, the size of the moon, silently drifted through subspace. The powerful warlord narrowed his eyes as he monitored the hacked data stream. A human capsule was discovered at a neutral outpost, and the military commander ordered its destruction. There were no witnesses to the final scene of this chapter. Talia was conducting daily checks of mining lasers when the long-range scanners suddenly buzzed. Several unidentified ships were approaching, without any transponders. She called the bridge in a panic. "We have a problem," she said. Caden, who was still recovering from his injuries, pulled himself together. "Take everyone to the underground shelter and protect the outpost," he ordered. Ira asked for the only thing that could save them. "What will protect us?" Caden replied, his eyes burning with determination. "My people, Belt 17, trembled under the weight of impending doom." The graceful and silent ships of the Conclave emerged from the shadows like knives from their scabbards. 5 destroyers and 1 battleship. There was no warning, no diplomatic channels, no pretext. The outpost was a center of power and intent. Alarms were ringing in all directions, and holographic projections were flashing red. The crew moved with fear, their every action showing their fears. Drog punched the communications panel, shouting, "They're jamming our signal!" Polly's fingers flew over her console. Backup transmitters are disabled. They shut down the systems one by one. They're cutting off our power grid, our docking clamps. They want us defenseless. The remnants of his armor, his breastplate melted, his knee pad hissed with every step. His pulse screamed from the burn of half-healed wounds, but his mind was crystal clear. "They want me," he said, "and they're going to destroy you all just because you helped." Ira packed the remaining medical supplies into a sealed bag, handing it to the youngest member of their team, a young avian mechanic who was barely old enough to fly. "Get to the technical tunnels and hide." The Aon tweeted in fright, then disappeared. In the loading bay, Caden had prepared mining equipment for makeshift traps, ion cutters tuned to overload, repurposed power drills, cargo lifts turned into battering rams, guerrilla tactics, dirty tricks, a struggle the Conclave had never respected until it destroyed them. By the time Drog informed the doctor, "It takes me 5 minutes to get to the communications relay." "You'll never make it," the Drog growled, Caden's expression grim. "I've been through worse." When the initial disruption occurred, the Conclave forces, Victor 7 Tango, authentication. Caden's blood oath moved closer to the microphone. "This is Lieutenant Caden Reiner, presumably killed in action, currently being attacked by Conclave forces at a civilian outpost. A group of 17 locals helped me, but now we are in danger of being destroyed. I call for Article 7. Humanity protects its own, and those who protect us. Send them everything. Send them all." Rayner finished. He pulled out the chip, and the signal shot out at a quantum distance, piercing the Conclave's interference. The Conclave's troops poured into the outpost like a swarm of locusts, efficient and merciless. They executed 2 workers in front of the medical unit. Ira dragged the other to safety, tears streaming down her fur as she injected painkillers to someone who was no longer there. Caden returned to find Drog bleeding from a chest wound, still firing a mining laser through a makeshift barricade. "Tell me the signal went through." Drog coughed. Caden nodded. "Okay." The Drog smiled, his fangs stained with blood. "And now we just need to. I have to live long enough to witness the next wave of explosions engulfing the main reactor." The station groaned as flames engulfed the corridor. "The Delta!" The survivors have retreated to an airtight cargo hold, but it won't last long. Then the sky outside the asteroid space changed. One Conclave ship has detected a gravity anomaly. Then 3, then 12. The tactical AI issued a warning, but it was already too late. Dozens of warp signatures appeared in real space, each of which was a towering steel titan clad in xenon armor. SHH Valor, SHH Athena, SHH Sulfur, and in the center, towering like a god of war, Dreadnought, flagship of the 7th Xenon Armada, broadcast a message to the galaxy in a wide broadcast. "This is Admiral Juno Reiner of the Xenon Navy. You attacked a sovereign outpost by helping a Xenon soldier. You have chosen destruction. Now we choose justice." The first salvo hit instantly. The Xenon railguns crushed. The Conclave's lead ship was instantly destroyed. Plasma torpedoes pierced the enemy shields like paper, and the interceptor drones swarmed like a swarm of hornets. The Conclave fleet tried to escape, but failed. On the ground, in the medical bay of the outpost, the survivors watched the sky through a broken porthole. Huge ships obscured the stars, and the wreckage of the Conclave cruisers rained down like ashes. Ira's voice was trembling. "Is that what you're calling for us, Caden? After the war, humanity does not forget kindness. Silence after a war is never peaceful." The remnants of the Conclave ships drifted in the orbit of the Phaeton 17 belt, like offerings to the void where the Conclave ships had once loomed menacingly. Now there's only debris left, twisted metal, fading energy trails, and corpses frozen in space. Inside the asteroid outpost, the survivors stood in stunned silence, watching through the charred portholes as the Xenon ships formed a protective wall like the shield of the gods. One thought echoed in Ira's head: saved by the arrival of the Xenons. The Ghost, the Xenon space service, descended with controlled ferocity, mooring like a colossal planetary formation firmly anchored to the rock. From its ramp came rows of Xenon Marines clad in midnight-colored armor, each one bigger, heavier armored, and more intimidating than any warrior the outpost had ever encountered. At their head was Admiral Juno Reiner, her black cape billowing behind her, her metallic eyes shining like spinning blades. She purposefully entered the outpost, heading straight for the sorting room. Kaidan was there, bandaged up and barely able to stand. When the door hissed, Kaidan looked up and froze for a moment. Juno wrapped him in a fierce, silent embrace. No tears, just the quiet strength of two siblings who have lost too many friends. "You swore a blood oath," she whispered. "Do you know what that means?" Kaidan nodded. "I had no choice." She looked past him at Ira and Drog, who were both wrapped in medical foam. They were preparing Taliar's remains for proper burial. "They saved me," Kaidan said. "I made them a promise." Juno's jaw tightened. Then she turned to her officer. "This outpost is now protected by Xenon. Justice comes from orbit." The Xenon fleet was not idle. The survivors of the Conclave were tracked down in neighboring sectors. The broadcasts from the pirate enclaves went quiet for several days. Anyone connected to the attack has disappeared, either arrested or eliminated with surgical precision. The galaxy is watching intently. We have received a message. Help a needy Xenon, and you will find a family. Hurt him, and you will inherit the war. On the Xenon homeworlds, footage of the final battle of the outpost has gone viral. The last moments of Ira's resistance and the Drog's unwavering determination were captured on camera. It began to unite around those who dared to be kind. Memorial statues, songs, and entire fleets were renamed in their honor. Diplomatic shockwaves swept through the Galactic Council chamber. The diplomat from Sarn shouted, "You can't just annex a system because someone helped one of your own." Admiral Reiner replied via secure communication. Her voice was cold and clear as she said, "We have not annexed anything. We protected those who protected us, and if you have a problem with that, well, you know where to find us." No one challenged her. The Conclave broke up within a few months. The worlds that had once been loyal to him severed ties, and trade shifted towards the Xenon ports. The alliance was created not out of fear of being subordinated, but out of the belief that humanity unites with those who are with it. After a certain period of time, the outpost was reconstructed. The once run-down Phaeton 17 has been transformed. The rusty walls were replaced with reinforced Xenon alloy. Mining equipment has been upgraded and protective systems covering all corners have been installed. The Xenon flags fluttered along with the emblems of the local team, which were redesigned with honor. Ira, now dressed in a clean blue uniform, stood next to Kaidan as he was presented with the Iron Star of Legacy, the highest award in the Xenon Army for actions that inspired the mobilization of the entire fleet. Kaidan turned around and pinned the second medal on Ira's chest. "You deserve this," her voice trembled. "But I didn't fight like you. You fought with the heart that only a true warrior has." He said, "You chose to act with compassion, even in the face of danger, and that's what brought us here." A new alliance was formed. A variety of people gathered in the huge hangar. Miners, medical workers, engineers, civilians, both Xenon and non-Xenon. Admiral Reiner stood in the center, surrounded by her trusted advisors. "This is not just a rescue mission." She declared it a starting point, a declaration, and an invitation. She came forward, addressing any world or people who lived in fear. "If you offer peace, we will respond with force. If you show kindness, we will never forget." And if you ever need help, remember, we're here with the entire fleet. The hall was filled with thunderous applause. Later, as the stars twinkled over the asteroid, Caden and Ira stood together on the observation platform. "Have you ever wondered," Ira asked softly, "how a single act of kindness can have such a profound effect?" Caden stared into the darkness, no longer feeling alone. Above them, a new fleet was entering orbit, not for war, but for diplomacy, research, and defense. The ships carried both xenon and alien symbols because one act of compassion rewrote the future.